in North Dakota for 5 years. In 2019, we went over on a mission trip to Serbia. We helped build a community house, church house, for a little Roma community, gypsy community near Novi Sad. We were there for a week, worked our little butts off in sweating heat in August, and about melted to death, and had a wonderful time, and made a precious friendship, and have continued that via the wonderful world of internet. And she was coming over. She's affiliated with the North American Baptist, and that's how we were connected, because that's where we were living in North America, not Northern American Baptist world, because we were up north. And so we went over, connected with Dickinson, the Baptist church we were connected to in Dickinson, North Dakota. And these people have nothing, have absolutely nothing. The poorest of poor here is rich by comparison. And she is doing an impossible work, trying to break years and years, lifetimes of poverty, and to get people to build community, to build family, to find Christ. And so she's going to share with you what she does. And it's a hard work, and it needs lots of prayer, lots and lots of prayer, and lots of help. And so I'm going to let her share with you what she does and let you catch the vision.
Okay. Thank you so much. Should I stand or should I sit? Pardon?
Whatever you're comfortable doing.
I'm more comfortable to sit, because that's how we do the ministry. We are working with people that are on the margin of society, and usually authority is a problem. So we always like to sit and to be in the same line with all of them. So I can see all of you, right? Okay. It's great to be here. This is my first time ever in Texas, third time in the USA. And it feels like home. And that's something that is always encouraging to me. When I see people for the first time, but I know that we are family in Christ, in God, and there is no boundaries. So that's always huge encouragement for me, because I know that we have the same God, the same vision, the same, let's say, style of life, if I can put it that way. And this is a treat for me, I would say. I'm going to be in the USA for a month, but it is a treat, because I'm meeting new people of God's family and sharing life, and have an opportunity to share a little bit of what I do. And usually I'm a receiver in Serbia, but here I can give, or I can share what I do with you. And then we can share that burden and the ministry and the prayers, and we can be part of God's mission. So Zdrava Zajednica is the name of my organization. I'm a founder of this organization. It's based on the Christian values, and we can still do that in Serbia. And it's let's go back a little bit. I was involved, or I am involved in the ministry and in the mission for almost 25 years. But around 10 years ago, God called me to start something a little bit different from what I did before. So we can move on. And I gave you these pictures. That's my family, and there you have an email. But on the other side, I didn't put anything, so that you can put what's on your heart while I'm sharing to pray for, if that's okay with you. So, okay, it's there is one before this. The one flyer, yes. So just a little bit about the country that I'm coming from. Serbia is ex-Yugoslavian country, which is East Europe. It's Orthodox country. Around 90%, 85, 90% are Orthodox, traditional Orthodox. We have Catholics as well. We have Muslim, and we have evangelical believers. Serbia has around 7.5 million people, and around 5,000 are evangelical Christians. So churches are usually small, and there are parts of Serbia that don't have a church. So we are still praying for those parts of Serbia. As you can see, Hungary, Romania, Bulgaria, North Macedonia, Bosnia, Montenegro, Croatia are the countries around. And Serbia is not part of European Union, which changes a lot when it comes to so many things for living in Serbia and doing the ministry in Serbia, economically, and in so many other ways. Novi Sad, the city where I live, is the second largest. You can see Belgrade, and Novi Sad is 45 minutes driving north from Belgrade. And what's interesting about Serbia is that north part of Serbia, and it says Vojvodina, that was under Austro-Hungarian Empire for so many years. And in that part of Serbia, we have around 50 nationalities, different nationalities, and we have different churches. Can I just know what's the time and how much time I have?
6:14 right now.
Okay. Okay. Can you just tell me if I'm talking too much, just 5 minutes maybe before, if I'm talking too much. Okay, because I can talk. So north part of Serbia, it's normal for us to have churches, Catholic Church, Orthodox Church, Lutheran Church, Reformed Church. As I said, I am a little bit of a Serb, a little bit of Hungarian, a little bit of not Slovakian. Anyway, I don't know a word in English, but doesn't matter. So a little bit of everything. So for us, it's normal, to think about not to be more flexible. But when it comes to Belgrade and everything that is south, situation is a little bit different. That part of Serbia was under Turks for around 400 years. So it's a different tradition. There are more Serbs or Muslim people. And when you go to that part of Serbia, you could see mosques as well, and a little bit of tension between Orthodox Christians, evangelicals, and Muslims. So one country. Can I have the third slide, which is my family? Okay, so this is my family. My husband, Emil, and myself, right? And Marco, he's 22, and Martina is 20 years old. My husband is, you would say, pastor's son, PK, right? I'm learning. And I became a believer when I was 15 years old. I'm coming from a very difficult background. And when I was 15, I was already asking questions. What's the meaning of life? Why am I here? Should I just, if it's just to get married, to have children, to die, and that's it? Is there something else, something more? And I watched the Jesus movie, and that's how I became a believer. Evangelical church in Serbia is very young, I would say, except Baptists. Baptists are like 100 years old, but everything else is like, my church is like 40 years old. So it's I'm there almost from the beginning. So when I was 15, 16, I prayed a prayer after the Jesus movie, received Christ into my life because I saw that he wants to be my best friend. I didn't understand at that time, that story about the sin and heaven and all of that. But for me, that what was important was that he wants to be my best friend in my everyday life, and everything that's part of my life, he wants to be part of that. Only crazy person would want to be part of that. That was my thinking at that time. So that's when my journey with Christ started. And I was 18 when I decided to go to the Bible school, because I felt that God is calling me into a ministry, into a mission. And I wanted to know more about the Bible because I didn't have a clue. Who is God? What is the Bible? I thought that the Bible is like a historical letter. And it is in a way, but it's much more than that, right? So immediately after finishing Bible school, my church leaders asked me to be full-time in ministry. And I was 20 years old. So since then, up to today, and I'm 45 years old now, I'm in ministry in this way or another. Because in between I gave birth to 2 children, so I had to stop for some time and all of that. Our son Marco, he's a student, and Martina is working, and she's also going to a school, but a little bit different, for a diving instructor. And my husband is working for a company that are assembling pig farms. So most of the day he's not at home. But that's 4 of us. As I said, I felt a calling from God since the very beginning of my relationship with him to be involved in the ministry. So any ministry in the church that you can imagine, I was part of, except pastoring the church and being an elder. But, welcoming people at the door, doing discipleship, leading a small church, small groups, being a youth pastor, leader, and all of these things that are part of the church. So very much involved. And can you give us the second slide? And no, that's the previous one. So our vision, yes, our vision, the previous one. Yes, thank you. So as I was involved in a church, and at that time when I was 20, we had a war, which was basically an evil thing with Bosnia and Croatia. I don't know how many of you know about that. But that was just evil, pure evil. And Serbia received a lot of refugees. Only Novi Sad received around 100,000 refugees. So my church started giving aid, and economically the whole country was very low. Today I cannot even imagine, if you would go to the store and there is nothing, empty shelves. So I was part of that ministry, and we were doing great things. But after some 10 years or so, I felt that God is calling me to do something else. And I didn't know what, I didn't know, how, but my husband and I decided to go to live in Croatia, Osijek. which is like 2 hours driving, not too far away, and study theology. And there, I heard about community development ministry, and that Christians are talking about these things. So what I would love you to understand is that Serbia doesn't have a lot of Christian books. Today we do, but then we didn't. We still don't have a lot of books, and we don't have a lot of translated books. So if you don't speak English or German, you won't have an access to a good Christian books. So to hear that Christians in the world are doing something else except humanitarian aid, which I did for 10 years, for me that was like revival. You know, I was so happy to hear about that. So I heard about the ministry that is doing community development instead of just giving all the time to people. And I went through the training, and I loved it because I love church. I find it very important for all of us to invest into our local church. And when I heard that through community development, we can reach unreached people, and we can see new churches being born, I was all over, how should I say it? I was so into that. I loved it. So for our organization, when I found this organization, we decided as a board and myself that our vision is to see individuals, churches, and communities holistically healthy. That was my goal. Why individuals? Because if we want to make a change, we need to start from individuals, right? Why churches? Because church has a special calling to the world. And if the church is not healthy, it's small, or it needs any kind of a help, we should be there to help her, right? And communities as well. That was a little bit of a challenge for me because I was in the church most of my Christian life. I need to stand a little bit. Most of my Christian life. So for me, it was a challenge, to go outside the church. I was in the church for like 10 hours a day. And to go and talk with the people that don't know about Christ. And I don't know how they're going to react. Because in Serbia, you remember Orthodox Church is the main church. So we had a little bit of an issue with Orthodox Church, or Orthodox Church has with us. They were saying that we are sect. That was in the newspaper, and we were a little bit crazy people. So I didn't know how people will react, right? To become a holistically healthy, which means to have a good relationship with God, to have a good relationship with others, to have a good relationship with ourselves, with me, myself, and with the society, with everything that is around me. So for me, that was something, wow. This ministry basically is called Community Health Evangelism, and exists in the world for more than 30 years. So it's nothing new for the world, but for Serbia and for the Balkan, it is. So, and as it says here, it is a proven ministry strategy that seamlessly integrates evangelism, discipleship, church planting with community health and development. So that was, I was in. I said, this is it. I love reaching people that don't know Christ. I love the church. So if we can see new believers developing and growing a new church, that was great for me. That's like something that I love, right? And to see individual lives changed, that was something very special to me. Because as I said, my life, when I became a Christian 15, 16 years ago, I was very broken, coming from a very hard, environment. So to experience being healed by Christ was something special that I wanted to share with others. And for them to know that they can still have, a better life, that they can have a hope, that there is God who can heal them, who can hear them, who can walk with them, no matter through what they're going through. That's something that is huge treasure in my life. So I cannot see from here, so I need to get closer. Here, better. Okay. And I love pictures. So I will just explain what's our vision or strategy through this picture. This is one of the communities that we are working for 6 years now. And here you can see children, around the fire, right? Helping each other, feeding themselves, being together. And that's basically our vision. And our strategy includes, as I said, church planting, disease prevention, poverty alleviation. And the purpose is right much deeper. It is transform the lives and communities. And that is basically going to expand to other communities, other places. We decided to work with the Roma people. Roma people are nation without the country. And Serbia has around 1 million Roma people. And why am I doing this? We can talk. I can talk from my personal experience, from my personal life before Christ and after Christ. But some of the verses, Bible verses that are basically holding me are from Matthew 5, very known verses, that we are the salt to the world and that we are the light. So every time I go to these Roma communities, Roma villages, and this is one picture of how one Roma community looks like, okay, looks like, is I'm so encouraged because I believe, literally I believe that we are bringing the light to the darkness. And we are that salt, and we are God's hands and God's feet to the unreached people, Roma people. And every time I go to some of the villages, this is how children are reacting. They're coming, they're hugging us. Because honestly, if we don't go, nobody does. Nobody likes Roma people. Nobody likes, smelly, dirty children that don't want to listen, that are living on the street, that they don't have the basic, let's say, values, family values, that are going to steal your phone or want to steal your money when you are going or something like that. Of course, I am not, as a Serbian, with a Serbian mindset, I was not a fan of working with Roma people at the beginning when I was introduced with this possibility. But I do have a calling to work with the people that are on the margin of the society. And Roma people are the biggest minority in Serbia. As I said, around 1 million Roma people in Serbia, 14 million in whole Europe. And Roma can have a different background among themselves, they are still living like tribes. So they can have Orthodox background, they can have Catholic background, they can be Muslims. My neighbors, first neighbors, are Muslim Roma. And then they speak different languages. So it's really hard, to learn their language, because in one community you can speak one language and in another community they speak another language. So at the moment in Serbia, we are translating Bible into 4 main Roma languages, but there are around 20 different Roma languages. So that is, it's a little bit challenging to work with them, because it's hard to learn their language when there is such a difference among themselves. So with the vision and the strategy that we have, we are going, as an organization, we are going into 3 directions. And one is psychotherapy. I am a social worker and psychotherapist. So one part of my ministry, that's how I see it, not as a job, I see it as a ministry, is, working one-on-one, usually with Christians, psychotherapy, and helping them, to get better and to get healed and understand better the world and the Bible, and, supporting them. Because at that way, we are also supporting the church. What is the second thing? I don't see. Training churches. As I said, community development is a new ministry for Balkan region. What churches know is to give aid. As I said, 25 years ago, or a little bit even longer than that, I was 11, 12 years old when we were in a war with Bosnia and Croatia. So it's 30 years ago, churches started giving aid. And still, some of them are doing that. So we are doing the trainings, vision seminars, basic trainings, how to enter into a community. Why is it important to think about something else except aid? What is the community development ministry? And I am doing that for the last, let's say, 10 years. And we want to reach the Balkan. And we did it in Bulgaria, in Romania, in Montenegro, in Macedonia, in Bosnia, and Croatia. We basically have a team that is doing that. And we are directly involved into Roma communities. So we are reaching unreached people. And usually my organization, we are trying to work with Roma communities where there are no believers, where there is no church. And literally these people are, there is nobody who is visiting them, nobody who is taking care of them or helping them. And they're just living that cycle of poverty from one generation to another. There are different kinds of Roma people. So we have very rich people, very rich Roma people. And usually they are musicians, but we are working with the poorest of the poor. And that's something that in my life and my ministry life, I never experienced before. That level of poverty is just crazy. Children living in the streets, basically, from when they start walking. Everybody is for themselves. They need to provide food for themselves. Early marriages, drugs, not having the future, not having the hope, not having a basic education. So we have one community where I am working mostly, in very close to my house, where Joe and David came. That's the Roma community, around 70 people, 35, around 30 to 35 are children, and the rest of adults. Nobody knows how to read and write today. Nobody knows how to write their name. And we are talking about Europe. Nobody has the education. And we are again talking about the Europe. So they finish maybe first few grades of primary school because government is paying parents for their children to go to school. So they see it as a job to send their children to the school. When the child is like 10, 11, 12, it's better for that child to go and to work in the fields because it's a better money than to go to the school and get something from the government. It's a totally twisted world of values. So, as I said, this community and some other that we are working, currently we are working in 5 Roma communities, are abandoned by society. And as I said, there is no church and there are no believers. So we are basically starting from the scratch. And what's really encouraging for me after being involved in this ministry for 10 years is that last year, some Roma churches, because we have Roma believers in Serbia, some Roma churches decided that it might be good for them to start thinking about something else except giving aid for 20 years or so. Because they got tired of seeing the same situation in their communities and by just giving aid. So last year, let's say 5, 6 Roma churches called us and they were like, we would love to get a training. We would love to hear about this ministry. We would love to start something else, because even if they have a church and they're giving aid and the person is coming to that church, they have a hard background where nobody believes anybody, right? And everybody is thinking, how am I going to survive today? So without investing in people's lives, after 20 years, you still have the same people in the church because they're coming for the aid. They're not coming for something else, which is Christ, who is being crucified for us, who can heal us, who can change my life, who can be my best friend. You know, it's totally different story. So this is really encouraging for me. So our ministry is growing. It's growing among Christians, and it is growing among Roma people who are unreached. And we have 2 workers in Serbia. I'm the one, and we have one more lady in South Serbia. So ministry is growing, we should grow as well. And that's one of the key reasons why I'm here. And I was sent here by the coordinator of NAB, North American Baptists, here. And the reason why I'm in USA this time is this is like, how should I say it, fundraising trip? Yes. So doing basically what I do right now, asking churches and individuals to pray for this ministry, to consider if they would like to become a part of it, if they would like to come for the vision trip, short mission trip, and see if this is something that is, let's say, a calling for them or for you as a church, and be part of that. We have a lot of needs, and as Joe said, this is a very challenging ministry. You know, we are working with the people that don't trust anybody. So it took me quite a long time to work in these communities and to gain their trust, to gain the trust of the families. And a little bit later, you will hear some stories. Did he pass that slide?
Story slide. Yes.
It's okay. It's after. Okay, but yeah, just to share a few stories so that you can, feel what I am talking about. This was a little bit of the structure and the things that we do, but this is why these stories are why I'm coming back. As Joe mentioned, this is not easy ministry. We are seeing broken lives, broken families, but when I see that small light is in somebody's life, that's something that is giving me strength to go back. To see a community of 70 people living in the cardboard houses or one very small room without the electricity, without the water, children running around without the shoes and without the clothes, no education, no future. These kind of stories are giving me the strength to go back. And one of them is Veljko. He's for you right side down. The bottom, yes. Bottom right. And I met him when he was 16. He lives in South Serbia. Broken family. Mom and dad are going to Germany to work there for 3 months, and they leave children, and then they come back, and then they leave, and then they come back. He has 2 older brothers, not a good relationship with them, and he was 16, alone at that time, because mom and dad were in Germany, and through our ministry, he received Christ. We shared in just a few sentences who Christ is, and I'm using my example that Christ wants to be your best friend. And I asked him, would you like to have a Christ as your best friend? And he was like, of course. We told him about the sins and, forgiving the sins and why the Christ came to the world. 2 years after, which is today, he is serving in one local church. Very small local church. As I said, in the villages and the places, churches are usually very small, and they don't have enough people, and they don't have funds. So he's serving 2 years after, he's serving in one of the local churches. And in his community, he's talking to everybody about Christ. He is very smart. He speaks German, he speaks English, he speaks Roma and Serbian language. And he has a high school, which is amazing, right? So in our ministry, multiplication is very important. And that's the natural product when we give to a person what she or he needs. Then that person wants to go and share about Christ and do the community development, because that person understands what she or he received through this ministry. Instead of just getting aid, we gave her development. And that's what I love about the ministry. So now there are new believers in his community, and our worker there is doing discipleship. They're doing Bible studies. They are doing lessons about development in different areas. It really depends on what that community needs and that specific group needs. So basically, when we come to one village, we are seeing what we are we are trying to see and to find out what their needs are, because every village can have different, needs and different things. So Veljko is a great story. This summer, every summer at the beginning of June, we do a summer camp. And I'm working in this Donji Petrovci Roma community for 6-7 years now. And this was maybe the first time that I went home with a bittersweet taste in my mouth, because I know these families for 6 years now. I know them when they were small children, and now they're youth. They're teenagers, right? They're youth. And I don't know if you can see. Yeah, it's a very small picture. But basically, one boy, first day at the camp, and we didn't see them for quite some time. My mom was very sick, and my mom passed away. So in that period, when my sister and I were taking care of her, we couldn't go to the village. And after some months, we went to the village again. And he had some dots on his hands. He's around 12 years old. Christian is his name. And we asked him, what is this on your hands? This is something new. I mean, I know him when he was 5-6 years old, right? And he was like, oh, we have some bugs in the house. And we knew that, my team, we knew that it's not bugs, right? So a few days after, a friend of mine asked him, what are these dots on his hands? And he's like, well, these are bugs. And she said, I know about these bugs because I had them too. My mom was, how would you say it?
Cigarette.
Yeah, burns. She would,
You put the cigarette burn.
yeah, she would put cigarettes on my hands to make them burn. And he was like, oh, I didn't know that. And she was like, who is doing that to you? And he was like, my older brother. And he has one older brother and two younger sisters, and mom and dad. And he said, my older brother, he's mostly doing that to me, but my mom and my dad are also doing that when they are angry or when they are discomforted or not happy with life. And my brother told me, when he's doing this to me, at the beginning that was hurting me a lot, but now I don't even feel it. So he was like, my older brother told me, with these dots on your hands, when people ask you, what is it? And you told them, what is it? They will be pitiful toward you, sympathy. They will have a sympathy toward you. And then you might get some money from them, or you can manipulate with them and you can get what you want. So I know it is hurting right now, but you can gain some of it, something from that. And it is a hard story, right? Especially because I know the whole family. And a day after, we had some donuts, giving children a donuts for a food. And we had 2 different kinds, with chocolate and with the jam. And we were giving each child a donut, right? So we came to him. We didn't have donuts with chocolate. We had only with the jam. And he was very angry. And I told him, well, Christian, if you want to take donut with the jam, you can have it. But if you don't want to, it's fine with me. But tomorrow I found out when he came home, he beat up his younger sister because she took a donut with the chocolate. And because she took it, he didn't have one for himself. How sensitive we need to be not to trigger the abuse in their families. Serbia, Serbia has a lot of trauma. We all have a lot of trauma. I went through some trauma healing and PTSD because of the war, one war, second war, and everything else that was happening. Churches, so many Christians have a lot of trauma because of the situation that we had in our country. But Roma are living in trauma from day to day, through generations to generations, and that is just going as a cycle that they cannot break, but Christ can. So that was a little bit hard for me to see how that abuse is being transferred from one generation to another. His father is abusive toward his mom. And then oldest brother saw how father is abusing mom all the time. And then brother decided to abuse younger brother. And then the younger brother decides to abuse younger sisters. And it's 6 of them involved in this abusive relationship. So we are trying to break that cycle with Christ, okay? With Christ. And one more very interesting story for me is Katarina. Katarina is a girl, you see me and 5 of them, and she's the second one from my left side. She was also 6, 7 years old when I met her. Of course, they're coming from Orthodox background, so they know a little bit about God. They have the saint that they are celebrating and all of that. And 2 years ago, I asked them if they would like to go to central Serbia to a Christian Roma camp. And all of them said yes. So we are at the Christian camp there. And God did amazing things while we were there. She was 12 years old then, and she had a dream. She woke up in tears. And I was like, Katarina, what is happening? Are you okay? And she said, I had a dream. And I was like, what is it? She said, and she doesn't know how to read and write. And she's not coming from the church. She doesn't have church vocabulary, right? So she said, God showed up into my dream, and he told me to shepherd his sheep. And she's 12 years old, and she's crying. And I'm like, but why are you crying? And she's like, well, I don't know how to do that. I'm 12 years old. I don't know what that means. And of course, we try to explain something to her, and we calmed her down, and we encouraged her through that. And we went home, and unfortunately, I am the only worker in North Serbia, and we have one worker in South Serbia. So I didn't have the capacity to do the discipleship with all of them because we have so many other things to do. And last year, she didn't want to go to the camp. None of them wanted to go to the camp. And I was like, okay, but I was going through a valley of hard times being part of this ministry, and seeing hard things, every day, and asking God, God, be merciful and show some results, plant that seed that we planted. You have to do it, because I don't have the capacity to do everything. And this year we had a camp, and the final day she came to me and she told me, hey, can you get me to that camp? And I was like, what kind of a camp? And she's like, well, I would love to go to that camp that you took me 2 years ago. And I was like, really? And she said, yes, I would really love to be with those people there. Something is drawing me to go back. So immediately after I come back from USA, she and I are going to that Christian camp. Good. And there are some others that would love to come. and one of them is Svetozar. So please write these names down so that you can pray for them. Svetozar is very bright boy, 13 years old. He wants to go to school. He wants to go to a Christian camp, but his father said, you are 13, you are not going to school anymore. And he wants to learn. He wants to gain knowledge. And his father is saying, no, you are not going to central Serbia, because they are living in their own communities and they're not going out. So for them to go 500 meters outside their community, that's not going to happen. But some parents are trusting me enough to give me their children. So it takes a lot of time to gain the trust of the families and to gain the trust of the parents. But things are happening and things are changing. I mentioned in the previous slide, how can you support us? There are so many different ways. We have a summer camp at the beginning of June every year. They love sports. They love to learn. They want to, interact with others, but nobody wants to go to them. We have a Christmas camp. Each year we do Christmas camp with them. And that's a really special times. Because usually these children don't even have one meal per day. And we are talking about the Europe again. If they don't provide for themselves, they won't have one meal per day. So Christmas time is a very special time. We are making cookies with them. We are sharing stories about Christ, why he came, and we are having fun. We are doing Easter camp. Very important. If you want to come and join us for a prayer week, you can do that as well. I believe that everything that if we want to achieve something, we need to start with a prayer. And we are praying and we are doing prayer walks through the communities that we are working and to some other places as well. We had a women Bible studies. They loved it, but I don't have the capacity of doing everything, as I mentioned, right? And we have a small number of evangelical believers who are doing everything. So many ministries, so many things in the church, and there is not enough people to support and help everything that Christians are doing in Serbia. They would love to have youth meetings. I am praying for 2 years now for a male member of my team, because I cannot reach men and I cannot reach older, younger men, which would be youth. We need to have a male member of the team that is going to be able to talk with them and to approach them, because they're a different culture. And I am white, and I am a female, and I'm blonde. And no man wants to talk to me, except few parents, fathers, after 6 years of work. Church meetings. We had church meetings Sunday, and children loved that. Youth loved that. We are not doing that anymore because the pastor that was helping us is 100 kilometers away, and he cannot do 10 churches in a day because he is serving in 10 churches. What is also very important, and that's something that I'm trying to do, is every year I am organizing a retreat for my own team, volunteers, workers, board members, because I appreciate their time that are giving for this ministry, because I know that they can choose something else. They can do something else, but they're choosing to be here. So investing in the team and investing in us so that we can give to others. And that's something that I treasure a lot. Do we have something else after? Okay, that's it. So thank you for your time. Thank you for listening. As I say, I don't have a lot of opportunities, to talk about the ministry that I do. And it's always easier when you share a burden with somebody else. I am challenging you to pray for this, to think about this ministry as a church, to talk with David and Joe about this. They can share much more than that what I did and what I shared. And think about the vision trip, maybe a few days, just to see what we are doing, where we are doing, to understand these things from a personal perspective, personal experience, and see where God is leading you as a church or as an individuals. I made like a, how would you call that? Like a poster with pictures. You can go, you can see, you can check, you can read a little bit about the ministry. If you feel like you would like to support this ministry by prayer or in any other way, feel free to write your name and your email, and then I can send you my monthly reports. I can send you monthly reports, updates, like updates. And if you want to have a, more personal relationship with me and to hear more about the ministry, feel free to put your name and your address there. And may I? Yes.
Paul, there's some things to taste that you'd like to try. There's a sausage, there's a
Yes.
Turkish delight, and then there's
Yeah, I brought Serbian sausages just for you to try a little bit. And it's a tradition in Serbia. And we also have like spreading made of paprika, which is tradition in Serbia. That's what we do. We cannot survive the winter without it. So if you would like to try, please try that as well. And Turkish delight, because we were under the Turks for 300 years. That's something that we accepted as our own. So feel free. And can I ask you, Pastor, to pray at the end?
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Oh, gracious. Yes. Lay my hand.
Thank you. Yes.
Here, Joe, would you? Okay. Our Heavenly Father, I just thank you for this wonderful ministry that we have heard here tonight. And we ask for your blessing and your guidance, Lord, on Mariana in her ministry in Serbia there with the Roma people. And I pray for your guidance in our church family, Lord, and what we can do to come along beside her and support her in our prayers and giving or mission trips or in any way that we can. We just thank you for this opportunity of learning and fellowship with her tonight, and ask for your continued guidance and blessings upon her ministry there, Lord, of holistically helping people there. And we just pray that for the growth and your blessing and guidance on this ministry. May it be very fruitful for your glory and honor. This I pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. So thank you so much for your time. I know that this is not your regular meeting. You came here just because of that. So I really appreciate that. And if you have any questions, I'm here. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.